much better. I'm James Wallace with the Alamo Draft House, and super excited for this panel. We have some Halloween fans. If you're not a Halloween fan, you can get the fuck out of here. All right, this is a huge panel. We're super excited. Halloween 2. Give them a round of applause. First up, Nancy Stevens. I'll use this one so we can go all the way down. Yes. Nancy Loomis. Charles Cyphers. Lance Guest. Shape himself, Dick Warlock. Miss Anna Alicia. Running out of chairs here. And Alan Howard. All right, so just to get a bit of business out of the way, we're going to do this old school Comic-Con style. So if you have a question, you can go ahead and line up right here, and then when we cut to the audience, that's how it'll work. That way I don't have to feel bad and calling people. So for those of you that were in the first Halloween, and then in Halloween 2, what was that like? You know, this is really kind of the first slasher sequel, and you were going into this era where that was just a thing. That was, you know, it was guaranteed that there was going to be a sequel. This wasn't a guaranteed thing at that time. So coming off the first success of Halloween and then going into Halloween 2, what was that like?
Well, it was more money.
More money.
Yeah, it was good. You know, I mean, the first one was great.
Yeah, the first one, no one knew that it was going to be the kind of iconic hit that it was. And people often ask me, it's like, how was it like? Did you love horror movies? I said, no, I was a young actress and I got a job. I didn't much care, it was a job. But I never expected that it would go into this kind of franchise. So I was lucky to survive Halloween 1 because I got to be in Halloween 2.
I got to be in Halloween 2 as a dead body.
My daughter.
That was my experience. That, you know, due to a lack of foresight on the part of the producers. I know, is this turned on now?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, due to lack of oversight or farsight on the part of the writers and producers, I died.
But a lot of you guys, you know, had the opportunity to work with John, not just in the Halloween franchise, but Assault on Precinct 13, The Fog, Escape from New York, you know, pretty much most of his iconic films. Just, you know, what is that experience like working with John? Because we all know him as, you know, John Carpenter, but, you know, he's just a regular guy, a brilliant regular guy.
Yeah, well, he's a brilliant regular guy.
Yeah.
For sure. And he's just a very good director, very involved in the art form of filmmaking and really working to perfect his craft, but had a lot of chops and, you know, really wasn't going to waste your time.
Yeah.
And could roll with so many decisions that, you know, had to be made on the fly, and yet they turned out in the end to flow together. And I think that's really key, is that you learn how to make the best choices in the least amount of time. And he's just very, very good at it.
There's also, it seems a little ridiculous now, but he had a fabulous woman producer named Deborah Hill. And in that time, it was really unusual to have a lovely young woman be a hard-nosed producer to make sure it was on budget, to make way for John and his artistic vision. And I think she's not celebrated enough as somebody who was really, she was breaking the glass ceiling at that time, and because she passed away, unfortunately, way too early, she's sometimes forgotten by the fans and what her contribution was to the Halloween movies.
It's such working okay, guys? Yes. It's interesting, Nancy, because recently I was going through all my Halloween memorabilia. There was a thank you card from Deborah, and she always did that. She would send us thank you cards for the effort that we put across. So it's so true. We don't see that. But I also love John Carpenter. I only worked with him in one scene in Halloween 2 because Rick Rosenthal directed it, and he was brilliant. John did a pickup scene with me and a walkie-talkie to add a few more minutes to the movie. And it was just simple, it was clean, you walked in, you did your stuff, and that was it. I never really got to say hello or anything, we just did the work. But for me, I think this is an interesting story for many of us in Halloween 2, John giving Rick Rosenthal the opportunity to direct this changed our lives, because Rick Rosenthal was not only a wonderful director, he is an incredible artist who supports artists. And he pulled people in, from classes that he took, when he'd see their work, for people that he had seen work, and he believed in us. And it opened a career for so many of us. So I want to celebrate Rick, who's not here today.
Yeah, I mean, what a job. Halloween is this kind of huge kind of indie cult hit when that wasn't really a thing like it is now, and then John deciding to kind of take a step back and then having Rick direct it. What was, for those of you that worked with John and then worked with Rick on the second one, what was that kind of difference like?
I'm not sure what it is.
Well, since Rick is my husband, maybe I can address that. Many people think that Rick and I met on Halloween 2, but we had all been in an acting class together. A number of the people who were Leo Rossi, Gloria Gifford, and Alicia, I can't even think of whom else, but it was a series of young actors who were really close and very supportive of each other. And I was one of the 3 or 4 people that survived the first Halloween, so I was written into Halloween 2, so it was just coincidental that he's my now husband, but was not then, he got to direct this. He was represented by John's agent, and Rick had just graduated from the American Film Institute, and his thesis film was a really scary, suspenseful film, and the agent said, I've got the guy for you, John, if you don't want to direct it. So that's how that happened.
Did you know each other before then, Nancy?
Oh, yeah.
See, I did not even know that. Had you met in class?
Before class.
Oh, that's right. I remember
but we
the
kept
story.
it a secret.
I remember the story now.
Come in different doors, different times.
Dick, speaking of differences, you have some shoes to fill. Of course, Nick Castle made the shape kind of iconic, and then you come in. How did you kind of approach that, where you kind of wanted to, obviously in the universe it's the same guy, but how did you kind of approach that to kind of match what Nick did, but bring your own thing to it?
I'm sitting there staring at me, Charlie. I do all this actors talk? I don't know. I'm the stunt guy that falls on the head on it. I had to make a living. But anyway, how did I approach that? I hadn't seen the movie Halloween when I got the job through Deborah off of Escape from New York. And so I didn't really know what the heck I was in for. Anyway, I watched Halloween and I saw a scene in there where it was two different people. Tommy Lee Wallace broke through the bedroom door there and got the lights swinging in the, the hanger in the eye and fell down. And then it was Nick who rose up. Well, I always attributed the whole thing to Nick. And I liked the way he moved when he rose up. He rose up and then looked. And it was mechanical. Oh, I like that. So that's where I started to walk and so on. And Deborah made a comment about my walk at the end of one of the DVD specials or something. And she was on set every day. She nor Rick nor John or anybody commented to me about don't walk like that, walk faster or walk slower. So I guess I did all right. I got very little directions, stage direction. You had to go from A to B and back again, or whatever I was supposed to do, stick her in the head with a needle. That's the basic stuff. But since I didn't have to talk and remember lines, I was in good shape. I don't speak, actors speak. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole different ball game when you're talking to actors because they speak a different language. It's like this fella here, he speaks a different language than I do, but I'm more in tune with him than I am with them. Anyway.
But I do remember Rick, I remember very clearly Rick saying to us, isn't it good? I mean, there was something about the way you moved that was just so fluid and so frightening. I mean, even to me, little Miss Candy Striper. But, I remember Rick mentioning that, isn't he good? So nobody said anything to you just because you really were embodied in that. Forget the actor's talk.
I actually, every time I put the mask on, you heard inside. That's what I was doing. I really was. I picked up on that breathing, and I used that when I put the mask on to do the character. That's the only thing I had to go with, is the freaky thing that Nick did. Thank you. I didn't know that he felt that way.
Yeah, we all felt that way actually. I mean, it was kind of a penetrating feeling. It might have been, the sound and everything. But it was,
I got to tell you, I'm really humbled by all of you folks wanting my signature. I mean, it's really, it almost brings me to tears to see. And now to hear this.
don't act. So to me, it was you were. So that's why I think people come and get your autograph.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's you're embodying this iconic person that we are all kind of obsessed with, but at the same time haunted by. And I think what you guys do, you're the ones who made those roles iconic. It's not just the mask existing. It was the people who wore the mask and what you did with it. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll kick to you guys. I want to ask Nancy Loomis. I believe you're the only one. So we have Halloween 1, then we have Halloween 2, which is this it's the first slasher sequel. It's a little bit gorier. Then we go into Halloween 3, which you're in a room full of people that I know, like me, love Halloween 3. Consensus, but it's people like us, and that's the reason that film is what it is. And I would love to hear what that looked like to you. Now you've built up Michael Myers for 2 films, and he's this icon, and it's this beginning of this franchise, and then they decide, let's take it in this totally different direction.
Originally, I just thought that was a swell idea.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is great. You could make a movie called Halloween, and it could be a different story, and bring one out every year and have such an amazing collection of stories over just a broad broad range, right, of myth could be incorporated. I thought it was a great idea. And you could still have, you know, the same actors, the same group of players, just playing a variety of parts, right? So from an actor's standpoint, it makes sense, right? And so I was, I guess, disappointed that spectators didn't latch onto that right away, and that really the whole I had to wake up to the fact that no, there was this sort of thing going on with this Michael Myers character. There was some really sort of important recognition there that character had become sort of iconic just in a very short time. And that was taking precedence over this other really cool idea. So I had to let go of that really cool idea, and it is such a pleasure, I have to say, that now over the course of time, that movie's getting its due, and because in my mind it means that whole idea is getting its due. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah? And so who knows, we could have this journey continue another 20 years with that idea being rolled out and played out.
Let's kick it out to you guys. So who wants to come up first? So I'll just get
What part, Nancy, are you the dead body in Halloween 2?
I play Annie
Okay.
as a dead body. I'm lying on a gurney, and there's this photograph of Chuck and I, right? And
So was that one day?
I think it was 1 hour. I think it was actually 2 hours of makeup and 2 minutes of shoot.
Okay.
Because Rick, like John, is just like
here. I'll just come to you guys, lazy bunch.
This question is for Nancy.
There are two of them.
Nancy Lewis. While y'all were filming Halloween 2, y'all were shooting scenes for the NBC edited for TV version of Halloween, and y'all had to shoot some extra scenes. What was it like to film again with PJ Soles and Jamie Lee Curtis?
Okay, the only thing I remember about that, I'm being very honest, the shot that the added stuff, I don't remember doing scenes with them. I guess I did, because I remember we had to go around scrambling to collect the props and the costumes and try to cobble it all together. But that's when we shot the dead body of Annie laid out, you know, with the chloride. I remember doing that. And I have to say, that's all I remember.
Okay.
But I do remember the scramble to recreate, you know, because it was so much after the fact that a lot of things that we needed either had to be, you know, doubled or somehow retrieved, and that was challenging.
Thank you.
Yes, this isn't a question, but it's more of an acknowledgement to Dick. I just wanted to tell you that, like, watching the extras in Halloween 1, like, seeing, like, what they were saying about the original shape and what they said about you, they said that, like, it didn't have the same effect as the original, but honestly, in my humble opinion, I believe that you were more darker, more exactly everything that Anna said is right on point. That out of all the Halloween movies, you are without a doubt were the best shape out of any of them. There was something about that rock, and you know, just that creepiness, that eeriness, you know, just like. I was trying to figure it out for myself, like when you got shot, well, when Nick got shot in part 1, maybe that slowed you down or something, you know, just like.
That might have been true. I mean, if you were, whatever.
I mean, I've been shot before and it hurts. I got the bullet available to prove it.
It's 6 times or 7?
Well, in the beginning of Halloween 2, I know that when Dr. Loomis fires, supposedly he shot you 6 times, and in part 1, it's 6 shots, but you hear 7 in Halloween 2. I know this. I am an avid fan. And I also want to acknowledge to everybody that everybody, you know, all of you are a part of my childhood, and you know, like I grew up loving these movies, and I'm just so honored to be saying this to all of you, that you just, wow.
You realize you just told everyone they have a bullet wound in the one place that everyone is going to ask you to see that bullet wound. I think we're going to move up because I think we're getting weird feedback from these cameras.
Hi. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you for making a really great sequel to the greatest horror film ever made. I think this movie goes on its own because it's a different setting, that they're in the hospital with all these dark corridors and stuff. And it's really great to me to see where it's not the same as the first. And thank you guys for making a great sequel. And thank you, Dick Morlock, for what you said earlier. We all appreciate what you did in this movie, and we appreciate you thanking us for
We wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for you guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just have a question for the 3 people who were in the first movie. I've always wondered this about the sequel. In the sequel, Nancy, your character reveals to Dr. Loomis that Jamie Lee Curtis's character is the sister of Michael Myers. I was, yeah, you do. You actually revealed to me.
You're telling me today a lot of things that I said.
In the second movie, that's where we first find out that he's the. I was wondering, in the original movie, it doesn't seem that that's the case. It seems like the first person that Michael Myers focuses on is Nancy Loomis's character, Annie, and that's the first person that he kills. I was wondering if that was something that, and it's more random, that he just finds these girls in this neighborhood. I was wondering that if they just invented that for the sequel, and it went on to the other sequels, you know, with the niece and all that stuff, played by the other characters and stuff like that. I was wondering if that was just something that came up with in the sequel, that it was never intended that Jamie Lee Curtis would be his sister. I was just curious if you guys knew that at all, talking to John or Deborah. I was curious.
You're asking for logic and rationale.
I'm not asking about screenwriting or storyboards and stuff like that.
I honestly, I
was just curious.
He kills him. We see Michael Myers as a child kill his sister in the opening shot of Halloween.
And then he's taken away.
He's taken away, and then and then we see, then the movie in the present day begins when he's escaped.
Yeah,
Correct.
he's escaped.
But there was never any
He's
relationship.
still killing his sister over and over again.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just curious if that was just the case. In the original movie, Jamie Lee Curtis, there was no relationship between her and Michael Myers. They just invented that in the sequel. It's the idea that she knew. If you guys don't know, that's fine. I was just curious.
No, I thought it was, help, somebody. No, I thought it was always this bizarre relationship.
Was she, obviously her name would be Myers, right? Jamie's name, and then she was adopted, right? So that was the...
They mentioned that in the sequel too, that she was adopted. They never mentioned that in the first film. I was just curious. You guys don't know, that's fine.
Alright, we're going to use this one because this one's getting feedback and I just feel awkward standing here in the middle blocking all of you, so come on down!
Hi, my name is Shane, and my question is for Nancy Loomis, and I actually thought about it while you were talking about Halloween 3. Now, do you think that Halloween 3 could have done better at the box office if it wasn't called Halloween 3 and if it had instead been marketed as a standalone film?
Quite possibly, yeah. But, you know, it's all hindsight.
Hi, I'm Darth Vegeta, and I was wondering, what would you think about Freddy vs. Jason sequel where Michael Myers joins the fight?
They haven't made it because there's no contest there.
take the crap out of me personally. But then you've always got Tyler Reid to take over.
My name's Steve. This is for Lance. Of course, I'm like in the TV version of Halloween 2, there was an alternate ending where you pop up. But was that scene intended to be in the original, like, theatrical version for Halloween 2, like you slip on the blood, you quick get the car started? And were you supposed to pop up in the end, but then in the end they decided not to have you there?
Yeah, I mean, we shot that. That was all part of the original script. And, you know, when I saw the movie for the first time, because I don't think I couldn't make the screening for some reason, or maybe it wasn't screening. But when the actual version happened, I'm sitting in the movie theater, I'm like, what happened to me? And I'm like, I'm supposed to be in the last scene. You know? And yeah, they decided to cut that out. They decided to sort of leave me in the car.
So they just want to end it with just Jamie Lee alone?
I think, yeah, I mean, it's kind of her movie. I mean, you know, she's the one that, she's the one that everybody follows. So, you know, what's that guy doing?
Yeah, so technically, when you slip on the blood, you could get the car started, and it was even that was in the theatrical version, that was intended for you to be in the end, right?
It originally was intended for me to live in the end, yes.
Okay.
But then there's versions, obviously, where I do. That's why you
TV version, yeah, it's like different, and changed around. Okay, thank you.
You guys are all phenomenal actors, and I love Halloween. Nancy Loomis, you were always my favorite. You still gave it a hot at 34.
Jesus Christ.
I was that kick out of Lance. You know, you're one of my favorites in Halloween 2. And for Mr. Warlock, was it a stunt double or was it you that walked through the door, the glass door in the hospital?
That was me, and I also was on fire at the end. Kramer, then hit the van. Two of my sons were in that movie.
Really?
Did anybody in here know that?
Yeah. He's got the radio.
Yeah, that's the boombox boy. He's my youngest boy, Lance, and I took him to the set with me the night that they shot that piece of business with John. And he came in the dressing room and we were talking about it, and I said, "Have you got somebody to do this little boy?" And he said, "No, I don't think so." I said, "How about Lance?" He said, "Fine." So they got him a jacket and a cowboy hat and a radio on the grip truck, and then the next thing you know, he's bumping into Myers in the square. And my oldest boy, Billy, who later on went into acting, I tried that, and I sucked at acting. That's the reason I called him. He was hired as an actor. And to do, when the house is all tore up and the sheriff is there and the kids are throwing rocks and stuff, there's two boys that run up outside the house and ask about Bennett Kramer. Have you seen Bennett Kramer? He's wearing this funny mask. Well, Billy is the curly-headed one. And so he had a little part in that.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent to know. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you all for great entertainment and thrills. And originally I got up because Lance was so quiet, I wanted to ask him a question. And I wanted to know if you had any memories to share of Dan O'Hurley, because you worked with him twice.
Dan O'Hurley. Yeah, I remember I met him, but that was the only time I ever really saw him without the mask. So the first time I met him, it was the only time I ever saw him without his mask. So he would come in like 2 hours before I would because it would take a long time to do all that stuff. I remember Dan saying that, I know this isn't a Halloween question, but he said the reason he wanted to do the movie was one line. And the one line was one word, and the one word was one. So it's like, how many ships do we have? You mean counting ours? Yes. One! So he said, that's why I decided to do the movie. That is very great accent, you know. That's why I decided to do this movie, this one word. That was my favorite Dan.
So you guys did Last Starfighter together, but Dan was in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, of course.
Yes.
Did you guys ever like, oh yeah, we're both in Halloween movies?
Sort of.
Yeah.
I didn't really speak about it as much. You know, he does all kinds of stuff. So.
Yeah.
Not really. No.
Yeah. Well, The Last Starfighter is awesome. Just
Gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for just enlarging a genre and giving it a foundation that so many other films and productions are built on. And you gave them a very large benchmark to shoot for, and we thank you for that. My main question really goes to the music. How did you come up with those notes? Because I know for myself, back in 1978, the 70s when the first Halloween came out, in the late 70s, my wife and I, who I was dating at the time, we were not married, that was going to be our first date. It was going to the drive-in. And consequently, you always expect to have a great time at the drive-in. We both sat motionless and did not move. We barely breathed the entire movie, and that's your fault. How did you come up with those notes that haunt the rest of us now for the rest of our lives?
All right, so just to get it all straight, those are John Carpenter's notes. So I came in at Halloween 2. So I inherited those notes from the master, John Carpenter. So really, he gets the credit. He always tells the story that the Halloween theme in 5/4 was a bongo exercise that his dad taught him. And his father was a concert violinist, so he had musical training as part of his, when he was bringing up, and then him and Tommy Lee Wallace had a rock band in Kentucky. So Tommy's his buddy from high school. And then finally he said, Dad, thanks for all the music, but I want to do movies. So he carried the whole music thing with him going in, and he always used to say that he was the cheapest composer he could hire. So that's why he did it, but really not. That's just his excuse. The man's a genius in many ways, and as you see, he's got a new record out called The Lost Themes. The Themes was one of his talents. That's what you're talking about. These themes, these iconic pieces of music that to a musicians get caught up in notes and being complicated. That meant nothing to him. It was the speaking the message of the music in very simple terms, which is challenging because musicians tend to overplay everything. So for me to get involved in Halloween, I had worked with John. My first movie with him was Escape from New York. And I remember that we were finishing up Escape from New York score. He was very pleased with what we did. And he was talking about how he was going to go off and make this movie a thing. And that they wanted to make a sequel to Halloween. So like a class assignment, he said, oh, by the way, you're going to do Halloween. So it was just an offhanded, casual thing in the studio. So he went off and while he was making the thing, we were making Halloween 2. So I inherited his original recordings from Halloween 1. And that's the days of multi-track tape recording. So he had a 16-track that the tracks were on. So I transferred that to a 24-track, so I had more place to sort of overdub. So Halloween 2 is really John's original score with me playing on top of it and giving it that more gothic texture. I made it darker. And that was sort of my mission. And then I went on to do Halloween 3, 4, 5, and 6. So except for Donald, I think I've done more of them than anybody.
Thank you again.
Alan, you worked with John on a lot of John, just as a director alone, is this, he's this kind of ethereal presence, you know what I mean? But then as a composer, it's like this whole other, monster, pun intended. So Big Trouble in Little China, Christine, just some of his most iconic themes. What is that like working with him in that respect as a composer?
Well, for John, again, he's doing the music for his own movie, so he's the leader, he's
right.
The director, and the arrangement was great because I had all the toys. I was very much into technology. I had all the stuff. He had the movie. He'd come over to my house and hang out. That was the whole arrangement. And initially, my job was to make sure everything was in tune and that the red light was on when we were recording. And then he let me grow as a composer with him to bring more and more to the party. And sort of Halloween 3, which we've talked about, which is and some iconic score. I remember. Back coming over to my dining room, we're sitting in the same room, and this time we sit down, I play the latest Tangerine Dream record, which was a very famous electronic music band at that time, just for inspiration. And I said, what do you want to do? And John says, hey Alan, this is going to be really easy. All we got to do is rip ourselves off. which is him saying I was really happy with what we did in Halloween. Escape from New York, so let's do some more stuff. So he really gave me a free hand to contribute as much as I wanted. But at the same time, he's the director. He wrote the movie. I mean, you know, so he knows what he wants. A little quote from John for our friends that are out there making their own movies. And he used to say that a director only had to know 2 words, yes and no. And then Charles updated me. He says he also has to know how to say cut. But that's it. Just yes, no, and cut will be a good director. You want to be decisive. You have so many decisions you have to make, and everybody's listening to what you're saying. And therefore, a yes and a no is better than I don't know, or give it to me both ways, I'll decide later. It's wasting time and money. So just being decisive. Even if you say yes today and it's no tomorrow, that's okay.
Was it you or John that was responsible for the Silver Shamrock theme?
Actually, that was an inheritance back to Deborah Hill. She called me up and said, we have to make this commercial that goes with the movie. And her instructions were, I want you to use the notes from London Bridges Falling Down, because we don't want any copyright issues. So that was the directive, was to use London Bridges Falling Down, and Tommy Lee Wallace came along. So it was Tommy and I that actually created the Silver Shamrock thing, being Tommy was the announcer. They're up, kids, you know, put your mask on, that's Tommy. And then the vocals are me and Tommy singing 3 More Days of Halloween, but with the old Chipmunks thing where we'd slow down the tape recorder and we'd sing and then we'd speed it back up to make the little munchkin voice.
Just sort of a general question, but there was the Halloween 1 and 2 remake, so there was a lot of mixed opinions on the remake. So how did you guys feel about the remakes?
The question was about Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2 remakes. Did any of you see them? Nope, nobody saw them. All right. Another question: Did you continue to follow this Halloween franchise? Did you, other than the ones you were, of course, in?
I saw the 2 that had to do with our story.
Right.
I'm sorry. I saw the 2 that sort of stayed with Jamie, Jamie's story. And
Yeah.
stuff. And I enjoyed it. And Rick directed Resurrection.
Yeah.
And which I really enjoyed. And H2O, I thought H2O was good. I had my critiques, but I thought it was good. I thought the acting was good, and the writing was good, and
Cool. Hi.
So my name's Ikram. Hi. I first wanted to thank you all for this was the first horror movie I ever saw, and it was really meant a lot to me. So thank you for sparking that love for horror. And my question was to all of y'all, what was the craziest thing that ever happened on set? I don't know, just something that just really stood out that you remember the most.
Well, I mean, I've said this story so many times, but during my death scene, oh, he's gone. I was supposed to, Rick had been very, very careful, and the prop people had put down a mattress behind me because I'm supposed to be backing up, and as I back up, I'm ejected in the eye. And so the idea was that I was supposed to fall out of frame. So there was a foot or 2 below where there was a mattress. And so we'd rehearsed this several times, and I'd fallen right back into a mattress. And we're shooting it, and I fall back, and someone, without thinking, moved the mattress and put a desk. So I fall back, and the corner of the desk hits my eye, and it starts to bleed, just erupts in blood, and I'm going, oh wow, and I'm going, can you use it, can you use it? I'm sorry, I can't, Rick, it's real. He goes, cut, because he was just thinking of saving my eye. So they cut, I'm pissed at Rick. He says, I'm sending you to emergency right now. And they took me to the emergency room and I got 14 stitches. And the funny thing is that after that, Rick had to shoot all the scenes before. So I would be in the cafeteria doing scenes, and he could only shoot me from this side because this side had this much plastered makeup over stitches. So that was pretty cool.
wow, that's heavy.
And I think there's actually an outtake that I go, oh shit, when I fell into the desk. Yeah.
wonder these movies get done.
I just want to again thank you guys for being here, taking time to come be with us. This was my favorite film from childhood, so it's amazing looking at you. And I want to ask you guys, each one of you, because I haven't heard from you very much, I'm curious to hear. What's your one thing you take, I mean, your memory that you take from each film, and you all did many different things, many different music films. What's the one thing you take from this film, your memory, you'll always take with you?
Well, working with Donald Pleasance was a joy. He was just such a magnificent professional actor. When he came on the set and he started to, to react to you, you're only as good as the actor you're working with usually, and he would just bring you up. You look into those eyes and go, "Whoa, this guy's whack." But he was wonderful actor, and it was just grateful to work with somebody like him.
The thing that was most important to me, because I'd never done a movie before, this was the first movie I'd ever done. So I was all, I'd be on the set for 12, 14 hours at a time, and I would stay in character. I was one of those guys. And I learned you don't have to do that. But I would always try to have tons of energy every time we charge into this scene. And often I would just right across the wipe the screen completely. And I would just keep coming in, I'd keep missing, the camera would be like, and Rick finally goes, "Lance, you want to be in the movie or not?" But he kept saying, "Lance, you can't come in so fast. You can't." So I learned from Rick, you got to hit your mark if you want to be in the movie. So there's a different energy that you have, from being on stage or being in front of a camera, where you got this much room, and you move and you're gone. The DP's like, "I had it all set up. What happened? What's wrong with this actor?" So I learned how to act in movies.
Well, I have a few memories. I have a memory of having a huge crush on this man. All the women on the set did. It was like the new guy, the new actor. But then, of course, Leo was something too. I mean, we had some hot guys.
Leo got naked too.
Yeah. Leo did get naked. In the scene.
Yes.
You also had Dana Carvey in his film debut. Yeah?
That's right.
Sorry, maybe he didn't fit in the hot guys thing we were talking about. Sorry.
I just think for me, it was I think it was my first movie as well. Movie. And I think that, the feeling in a set always starts from the top up, the top down. And Rick was just a good guy, and so then he cast all these really wonderful people. You can see by just listening to them. And so to be in that space, and Jamie also, I found her doing her work. She came in and just did her work, and I knew her from Universal Studios, a long time before that, and she, it was just it was a family, and so I think that it brought us all, that's what I took forward in my career, that you didn't have an ego, you just did your work, because that's what you were there to do, and you had a really good time with other people and supported other people.
It was a good first experience that way, because you don't get that all the time.
All right, last question.
So this one's for Nancy. Sorry, I'm not good with last names. Nurse Nancy. So how did it feel to come back onto H2O and then end up meeting Michael Myers again 20 years later and actually being killed by him?
My life had really taken a diversion, and I had pretty much stopped acting, and I do environmental.
If you had a question you didn't ask or something you've always wanted to tell these guys, they will all be at their tables. So thank you guys so much.